Hi, I'm in the healing garden of Janet Chambers. She's founder and executive director of I Have Wings, and I'm holding her book, Thrive in 5 in 5. We're going to hear her story today on People of Northern Kentucky. Hi, Janet, and welcome to People in Northern Kentucky.
Thanks
For welcoming me to your backyard here.
my sanctuary,
That's right.
my oasis.
So I want you to start by telling us where you grew up, where you're from, and how you ended up in Northern Kentucky.
Well, I am a Northern Kentucky native.
Oh.
I was born and raised in Northern Kentucky behind Dixie Heights High School.
Oh, okay, very
That's where I
close.
grew up. My mom and dad, Ivan and Dorothy Anir, and I was the baby of 5.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, so this is my stomping ground. Yeah. Actually, Dillard's, that whole Crestview Town Center, wasn't even there when I was growing up.
Oh, yeah, I guess not.
No, yeah.
So was that just fields?
It
or
was just
something at the
fields,
time?
right? I used to go over there and go sled riding.
All right.
It's
So
fun.
then I know you have a family, so tell me a little bit about your family.
Well, I'm married to Mike Chambers, and we've been married over 20 years now. And we have a Brady Bunch family. I
Okay.
have 3 girls, Linda, Shelley, and Kelsey, all adults and have their own children. And he has one son, Eric, who is also married and has his own children. And right now, after over 20 years of marriage, we have 12 grandkids.
Wow.
I know,
Wow.
under the age of 11 at this point.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you're very blessed.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. They are really the love of my life. You know, every day we had 3 boys to our family in August, and so we have 3
boys
Yes.
In August, just
Yes,
about 1 month.
yes. One of them was adopted, and 2 of them were born 2 weeks apart.
Wow.
So lots of boys,
Yes.
and we had lots of
babies.
girls. We would kind of go in waves, you know. We had lots of girls, and now we're starting to have boys, right? So
Well, so you run a ministry called
I do.
Have Wings.
Yes.
Tell me how and why that got started.
how that came to fruition, or like we say, took flight. How it took flight.
Okay.
Yes. So WINGS is an acronym. With inspiration, no one goes solo. And Mike and I were married in 1996. 1997, we bought this home, and we've lived here ever since. And 1999 is when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And at that point, it was, your whole world comes crumbling down. And I did not know at that point that I was going to have a mission of helping others. But I've always been open to helping others. I've always wanted to extend that helping hand. So it just came naturally that I would do something to help others get through their journey when mine was finished. So in 1999 was when I was diagnosed, and then in 2002 was when I started I Have Wings Breast Cancer Foundation. And it started with a trip. I was nominated for a trip I raised the most money than anyone had raised in Northern Kentucky for the American Cancer Society. And I was nominated for this award out in California with Lifetime for Women. So my husband and I flew out there, and I was one of 15 women that won this award. And I think that was just such an inspiring, it really inspired me to go out and do something that was meaningful and purposeful. When I came back, I was really pumped up to do something on my own. But I did have a partner in the beginning, Sue, and Sue and I were a great fit. But after about a year or so, she just said, you know what, I want to be in the background. And she's still a great volunteer. And at that point, I was quite upset. I didn't think I could do it on my own. But, God works in mysterious ways. And I just kind of, from that point, I think that I like to say the heavens opened up and his blessings just poured down, because it was, if I just said, God, I need a brochure, the next day someone was saying, hey, I'm a graphic designer, do you need a brochure? It was so weird.
Just provided
He
for you.
provided everything I needed. He really did. So we went from there. It started in 2002. And in 2002, we helped 4 families. And now we can help up to 400.
Now, when you say help, tell me, what does I Have Wings mainly do?
Well, we've evolved over the years, probably different than when we first started. But the main mission of the foundation is to help families emotionally and financially. So there's levels of things that we do emotionally. I call every individual person personally and just listen and chat about where they're at in their own journey. We send my book, which was published in 2014, as another level of assistance and emotional support. And we send care packages all over the United States. And so the care packages have very uplifting materials in there, and just to bring a smile to their face. And then also our brochures in there so that they know exactly what we do and how we can help them. So those are a few of the emotional. Then financially, we want to reduce the burden and the stress. It doesn't matter where you are financially in your own life. We will help you no matter what. It doesn't matter, because the burden, the medical burden alone, it's just enough to tear families apart. In my own journey, 4 kids, they were all in private schools. So we had 1 in college, we had 2 in high school, 1 in grade school. We were education broke before I was even diagnosed. So having that diagnosis was an actual financial burden. So a lot of the things we do is based on my own journey, because we struggled. Even though, we're middle class, we struggled, and we know what families go through when that diagnosis hits. So we do a lot. We help bills. We help pay bills. We do a lot of food. We do gas. We do a lot of prosthetics and wigs, lymphedema compression sleeves. So, and there's a lot of things that are outside the box that people need during that period of time that we try to provide. So we had one lady once that her main concern was getting her kids some school clothes. So that's something outside the box that we were happy to help her with. We've done a lot of school supplies. We've done a lot of, this year we did 2 lift chairs, which was kind of unusual request. So we do unusual things now and then. It just depends on where that person is and what their needs are. And that's why I love to call people and find out where they're at, because certainly what they apply for online is usually not everything we end up providing for that person while we are on the phone. I find out a lot of things that are really core needs.
So I think I saw a photo, something of y'all handing out scholarships to students.
Oh yeah, we do. Every year we budget for $5,000 in scholarships for high school students that are seniors going to college, and we pay that $1,000 to 5 different students and directly to the college. Yeah, so it's an awesome way of helping a deserving student, especially one that has been touched by breast cancer, and their families have been touched by breast cancer.
Well, nice. Now, where do you get your financing from?
Well, mostly we have 2 events a year, so the bulk of our budget comes from those 2 events. We have a golf outing in the fall, and we have our spring bling in the spring, and that's always in April. So those 2 things really is the bulk. But we also get grants. I write most of the grants that we get. We have gotten grants from the Cincinnati Rotary and the Kentucky Colonels. So there's a lot of grants that come through. And then we've also, we get donations from corporations. So local corporations that, you don't even know they exist that have philanthropy areas in their corporations. Kroger's being one of them. Kroger supports us every year, and that's how we are able to supply so much food and holiday dinners for families. And then like Crane Composites, they support I Have Wings. So there's a lot of local companies, and then there's companies like J. Charles Crystal Works, who provides us with a crystal to give survivors in our care packages.
Oh, wow.
So, they're just kind of behind the scenes. And so that's how we operate. We get a lot of donations. We take single donations from people who just, maybe they've lost a loved one to breast cancer, and they make a donation to the foundation. If there's a death in the family, sometimes the donations will come to us in lieu of flowers. So there's a lot of ways. And then you had asked about how we get some of our survivors. So we work with a lot of the area hospitals, but a lot of people apply online. Amazing that the World Wide Web is the World Wide Web.
I know.
So we have a lot of people apply online, and then word of mouth. A lot of people are word of mouth. So.
Okay. Well, I have been to part of your golf outing before, and you have lots of volunteers I see there too. So.
We do. We have over 150 volunteers that we reach out to for a lot of different reasons. The Cincinnati Beer Run's coming up, and we will provide them with probably 30 volunteers. And there's volunteer opportunities at our two events. The Spring Bling, we probably have 100 volunteers at that event. And then we have like 30 volunteers at our golf outing. So a lot of volunteers help us do a lot of great things. Couldn't do it without them.
Well, if somebody wants to volunteer or give money or just find out more information,
They go to our website, ihavewings.org, or you said you were going to put some links on there. Well, they can go on the links. And there's a lot of breast cancer foundations out there. I don't think any of them do the grassroots that we do, because we're very focused on the family. And then second to that, we focus on education. We've given over $30,000 to Wood Hudson Cancer Research Laboratory to research breast cancer. So we've not just, helping families. That's our main focus. But we also do education. We go to health fairs. I do a lot of public speaking. I do presentations. I'm in the high schools, the colleges, corporations. I even speak at book clubs. And you never know where you're going to find me around town.
yes.
So I do a lot of public speaking, and that's how we get our word out about education. And then thirdly, with education, we also supply at no cost to them educational kits, which are for the schools because all of the budgets have been cut. I never know when I go into a school if I'm going to talk to the counselor, the principal, the athletic director. I never know because everyone wears different hats. And so we provide this kit, which is phenomenal, and we've spent a lot of years going through it to make sure we're providing the right information to the school systems to be able to teach and then also counsel and then help if there's a diagnosis in the school.
Well, tell me, during your fight with cancer, what did you find to be the most helpful?
Well, in 1997, my husband and I, about a year after we bought the house, we started cleaning out the back there, and we plopped a bench back there, and that was pretty much it at the time. And then when I was diagnosed with cancer, you're so weak and so drained, and it would seem like, oh gosh, if I could just take a 5-mile walk and clear my head, but you just don't have the energy for that. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to start going back to that bench. And so we put a little bird bath back there and then planted a few flowers, and it just evolved into this really cool little place for me to go and sit and cry or pray or read, or sometimes I'd even fall asleep back there. But it would get me out of the house and away from 3 teenagers, and it would just be a place of solace for me to regroup. So, and then I started journaling. So I would take my journal back there and I would write. And sometimes I just, wrote, I feel really bad today and I'm not writing. And then other days I would write stories like you'll find in my book, things that happened that were really
Well,
funny.
I was going to ask, is that where your book came from?
It
from
is.
Your journaling.
It
sitting
did.
there at your garden.
It did. It really did, because the funny things that happened, of course, weren't funny at the time. Like the day when my daughter's boyfriend showed up at the front door and I wasn't wearing my wig, and there's pure chaos running around.
Oh.
You don't see it as funny then, but when you look back and you read it, you think, that was hysterical. So it brings a little bit of humor and emotional support to other women going through it. But I think that's if something that came out of it was having that place of solace and then writing in my journal, and I still go back there and I enjoy that area a lot.
And didn't I hear you called it your healing garden?
I do, yeah. I call it my healing garden, yeah. And now I take my grandkids back there, and I tell them what all the flowers are, and we watch the birds. I love birds. We feed all the birds, and so this has become a real oasis for me back here.
And painted rocks in places.
Oh, the
too,
painted
so.
rocks. So I have to tell you about the rocks because it's a story. At one point in time, as you can see by the water fountain behind us, I love rocks. And so when we decided to put this water feature in, we had this landscaper come out, and I told him exactly what I wanted, and truly it is exactly the way I envisioned it. And so every day he would bring in boulders and boulders and rocks to put in this water feature. And during that time, I went to Indiana with a girlfriend of mine, and one of our main purposes is when we go is to gather rocks. So her trunk is filled with rocks, my trunk is filled with rocks. So we find what we call the mother load of rocks in Indiana in a field, and I hand pick up these rocks. So I'm looking at every rock when I'm picking it up, and I'm putting it in my trunk. So when we get home, I hand pick up the rocks, I put them in a wheelbarrow, and I bring the wheelbarrow around here and I dump it under the deck. And then when the guy comes to work on the fountain, I said, hey, I've got all these rocks under the deck. If you want to incorporate any of the rocks in the fountain, feel free. If not, I'll use them somewhere else. And so I would come out here and hose off the rocks at night. And one night I'm hosing off the rocks and this pink ribbon pops out of this rock. And I thought, I must be seeing this wrong. So I go back and I hose it off again, and this pink ribbon pops out of the rock. And I thought, if ever there was a time when I was questioning, God, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? Am I really where you want me to be in life? It was that moment that I said, this is telling me you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Confirmation. So
the next day he comes and I said, oh, Paul, this rock has a pink ribbon in it. And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, no, I hosed off the rocks. This rock has a pink ribbon in it. And he said, Janet, that's one of your rocks. That was one of the rocks that was under the deck. That means I had looked at that rock numerous times, touched it, felt it, put it on, and never saw it. So he rearranged all the rocks so that it would perpetually stay wet.
So that you could see.
So I could see it every day, and it would be a reminder that I'm where I'm supposed to be and doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, the pink rock is in there, and it's perpetually wet.
That is an awesome story.
Isn't that neat?
It is.
Yeah. So that's why I say rocks speak to me, because they really do. And so I paint rocks, but certainly the rocks I painted years ago during my breast cancer journey are quite different from the rocks I paint now. Much more joy in my life. So that's where the rocks came from, yeah.
Well, what a great story. I love that. So you've been in Northern Kentucky all your life, then.
I have, yeah.
So what's your favorite things about Northern Kentucky?
Oh, definitely the hometown. Oh gosh. If I always say, and we might find this out, if I talk to you long enough, we're probably related.
I think that's true for a lot of people in Northern Kentucky. Though.
That could be good or bad,
I know, right? don't talk about anything.
That's exactly right, yes. So, no, I definitely love that about Northern Kentucky and how everyone just knows everybody else. It's really a hometown. Second to that, I think that living here gives us the perspective of a small town, but we have all the amenities of a big city. So we are huge Bengals fans, Reds fans, now FC Cincinnati fans. So we have all these great things like over the Rhine, and we have the Serpentine Wall and the Underground Railroad. Just everything is at our fingertips, and I think that's an awesome place to be. It really is.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Janet.
You're welcome.
Appreciate the interview.
Well, I appreciate you coming over here into my humble abode.
Thank you for joining us today. Every Thursday at 10 a.m., get to know your neighbor by catching a new edition of People of Northern Kentucky.